So guys, back in 2012, there was an event that was probably the biggest jiu-jitsu event at its time. Big production value, big lead up, exciting headlining match. It was a big deal. I remember getting my gym together. We did a little watch party at the gym, but the actual event itself was kind of boring. It wasn't very entertaining at all. And then some of the matches were, but the event overall wasn't that entertaining. This organization did several competitions afterwards, and they always had the same thing: great production, big lead up, big headlining matches, but man, the events were just always kind of boring. But the event was Metamoris. And if you're newer, you probably don't know what that is, but if you're an old timer like me, then you remember Metamoris, right? And basically it was boring because of draws. It was a sub only, which we think is supposed to, make things exciting because you're going for the finish. But there was no way to decide who a winner and a loser was if the submission doesn't happen. And as we all know, sometimes you don't get the submission in jiu-jitsu. And so you had all these draws. And so you walked away from that event going, something's missing. Someone I was talking to earlier, they're saying it's like a flat line, right? The excitement just gets muted. In the very first event for Metamoris, it was Huron Gracie and Andre Gavau, and Huron basically balled up and defended, and Andre's running around, but against a good black belt, and if they don't make exposure trying to go for something, it's very hard to get something, right? When you get a good black belt, someone who has good, solid, rock solid fundamentals and defense and everything else, it's really hard to get anything on them if they don't expose themselves to go for offense, because when we go for something, that's typically when you find your openings, when someone's trying to go for something and they extend themselves. Now, I'm talking about this because, the CJI 1, one of the big things I loved about the CJI 1 format was that it was multiple rounds, relatively short rounds, but there was always a winner and a loser. There was never going to be a draw. Someone always got their hand raised. Two people go in, one person gets their hand raised every single time. That creates excitement. It keeps it going. There's something to that, right? There's a nice snappy conclusion. If you've ever watched one of those movies, sometimes they're like the creative films that maybe knuckle dragger meatheads like me don't really care for, where they don't have that nice conclusion. They're kind of open-ended. Sometimes you walk away from them going, it's missing something. And after the first day of the CJI, it's an exciting event. It's good. I like it. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm crapping all over it, because I'm not. I'll talk more about the goods and the bad and everything else when I do the full-length podcast on this later on this coming week. But there's something missing that the first one had. And again, it's kind of hard to capture lightning in a bottle twice. But one of the things when they were putting out the format for this tournament, I remember when they initially announced teams, I was excited about teams because I thought they were going to be a duels format, right? Where we line up our weight classes and we battle it out, each weight separately, right? But then they announced it was a quintet. And I'm just not a quintet fan. It's kind of an interesting format, but it always does a couple things I don't like. One, there's draws, which you can't have a draw. There has to be a winner and a loser, at least in my bearded opinion. And then two, it really nerfs the smaller weights, right? Like at this event, for instance, the 66 and the 77, it's tough for them unless they end up with someone who's of the same weight. If you're the 66, that's a tough road. There were several times where the 66 are going up against people 30, 40 pounds plus heavier than them. And, I think it was Owen Jones goes against, who was it, Kanan? And he celebrated because he drew the draw. But it's not really a draw, though. We'll talk about it in a second. But he celebrated not losing. And again, that's not what you want from these situations. You want to incentivize going for it. But it's hard to be, outsized that much by someone who's at, and again, it's different if it's some, sort of normal person in your gym. It is a different situation if it is a world-class athlete who's, shredded to the gills and they've got 30 or 40 pounds on you, right? And so, you have that thing going on in a lot of the matches, most of the matches were draws or they weren't submissions, because that's another thing. They're not exactly draws because they do count. Judges are scoring them, but they're tiebreakers at the end, but we don't get to see the hands raised. And I think that's really important. I think that at the end, it's for an excitement standpoint from a spectator, we should see two people go in who won the match. We should be able to see that. And if the judges scored it, why don't we see that? Why don't we see the hand gets raised? Because that's the cheering, the excitement you're excited for. Like one of the matches, I think it was Kenta went against the plus 99, Ryan Bain, right? He went after him. He went for takedowns and pressure passing and upper body stuff. He didn't just try to play the submission game from the bottom to the leg lock. He went right at him toe to toe. And it was an impressive performance. I wanted to see that guy get his hand raised, but instead it's like, oh, okay, guys, send you back there. And, it counts, but it's kind of behind the scenes. And again, going back to the Metamoris issue, in that old event, you would see these matches where you have world-class people and, they would roll a little bit. And because there wasn't a definite winner and a loser at the end, a lot of times you would see someone shell up. Because if they shell up, at least they don't lose. And a lot of times, if you understand human psychology, we will do a lot more to avoid pain than we will to move towards like our desires in a lot of cases, right? So they may really want to go for the submission, but what they don't want to do? They don't want to get submitted. They don't want to look bad. They don't want to lose the match by submission and their stock go down. So you know what? I'll just play safe. And in a lot of cases, you always sort of heard this reoccurring theme where, hey guys, I tried my best. I'll do better next time and I'll see you guys at the next one. But again, if you're not keeping it exciting, people aren't going to come back and watch it. In that quintet format, I think it creates a lot of passivity. I think Craig did it right last year, and you saw this with the female matches, right? Like the Sarah Gavao match, that was a great match. 3 5-minute rounds, winner, loser. We know who's, as the fans, we know who's winning this thing, and there's a definite winner at the end. I think it's what you got to do. You can't have draws. No matter what, 2 people have to come in, 1 person has to get their hand raised. Now, you could do that with the format they're doing. Just let us in on who got scored the win and get their hand raised in front of us. We'll all be excited about that as fans, since you're already doing it. And maybe next year, this is just, my if someone's watching this would be my encouragement. Do it like a duels. Do it like a wrestling duel meet, right? Where, if you guys aren't familiar with wrestling, you will get a certain amount of points to your team if you pin the person, if you beat them by X amount of points, or if you beat them like a close decision, right? You get a certain amount of points for that for your team. And so to me, it would make more sense to say, well, you get maybe 3 points for a submission and 1 point for a judge's decision. So each match counts no matter what. Now, submissions are still the most prized thing, but even if you win, right, you still get a point for your team. So every match counts. And there were several matches where you could tell guys were playing very passive, and their whole thing was like, just knock this person out, which is the right strategy. Knock this person out, don't get submitted, which means that you're not really going for anything. Now, again, I want to stress this. I like Craig, what he's doing with the CJI. I like the event. I schlepped my butt all the way here, paid for tickets, the whole deal. I was ready to support it. He even offered me, he sent me a message. He said, hey man, like, we can get you some tickets or whatever. Like, no, dude, I'm buying tickets. I already got tickets. So like, I'm here to support it, right? I want to vote with my dollars. I want you to keep doing this. And so when I share this with you, this is just where I'm thinking about, again, and it's like when you have a competition match, it's like, the good stuff is the good stuff. But it's always when you're looking at, well, what could we do better? That's just kind of where my mind always kind of goes, what can we do to improve? And so this is not a poop, and I don't poop all over anybody in my videos anyway. That's not how I do things. But when I'm watching it, it's an exciting event. It's a well-produced event. The crowd's energy was good. It was a great event overall. But when I talk to people, I was talking to tons of you guys at the event, everybody had this same sort of feeling. We're like, something's missing. Right? It's like you're eating some soup and you're just like, there's something missing there that we would like to see. And I think the big sort of fly in the ointment is that you can't have a exciting thing like a competition and have draws. This is why, like, as Americans, we don't like soccer. You have draws, right? Like we have overtimes in all of our sports, right? There is going to be a winner and a loser. And I think you have to have the same thing with this. It's you have to have that end, that nice snappy conclusion. Who won this thing? And I think that it would make more sense to do it that way and also give points. So this way, every one of those matches means something. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Now, on to you guys with this whole thing. What do you guys think? What did you think about CJI 2? What did you think about the format? What did you think about the quintet style? Did you think it was really exciting? Did you think it was maybe a little bit more passive or, whatever, right? What were your thoughts about day 1? I'm going to be heading over to day 2 in a little bit and excited to see that, excited to see it sort of conclude the whole thing. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and maybe I'll see some of you guys there.